Hello and welcome back to Dukascopy TV. Now each week we're joined in the studio by the financial newspaper Agefi. Nicolette joins us once again this week to bring us another exclusive interview. Over to you, Nicolette.
3D is increasingly popular, and Gener8 has produced the 3D versions of films such as The Amazing Spiderman, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, or Priests. Its CEO, Rory Armes, is here with us today from Vancouver to tell us a little bit about his industry. Rory, welcome to the studio, welcome to Geneva. Now, your company is quite young. Tell us a little bit about its story.
Gener8 is 2 years old or young, and we got into it from video game industry. So there's a lot of us that have been in the industry, video game industry, for 20 years. So we've kind of been around entertainment for an awful long time. And we just kind of felt like we all kind of do, is fall into different industries. The 3D industry is not that dissimilar to video games. So the process and how we looked at it was very similar. But we kind of came across 3D and we were enjoying the thought of maybe changing the way the industry looks at doing 3D. And so we started to create our own process and technology to do 3D conversions of some of the big films.
So how is 3D made, and how does your technology work?
3D is made, there's two ways to do 3D. One of them is to film it with two cameras, and you align those two cameras into a scene, and you actually get, kind of through like triangulation, you actually get the 3D scene. The other way to do it is if you actually filmed a film classically, like you would with a single camera, or you had to go back into all the other films that have been made that way, you do it with a software process. And our software process is a little bit different than anybody else. And what we would like to do, probably because we came from kind of real-time graphics in video games, we like to, basically what we're doing is we tear apart the scene and we recreate that scene like you would a 3D stage, but now it's virtual. And all the actors or all the objects that you want to have depth, whether they're coming out of the screen or they're going into the screen. And our process actually then projects back in this virtual set. And but what we now can do is we can actually create very quick and fantastic quality 3D. And we also allow the directors and the visual effects and the post-production people in the film industry to actually edit it very, very quickly. So they can really quickly tell, do I like it too far out of the screen or maybe not as much out of the screen? And so it really allows us to kind of create a high quality, which actually matches with when you do the two camera system. It matches the quality.
But at a much lower cost. Yeah,
the cost is quite a bit lower because, as you can imagine, on a film set, anything more to complicate that process really adds to the expense of it. Whereas the 2D to 3D conversion using software, we usually are coming in post-production, and you have small footprint in the actual production process, which is quite expensive.
And the other thing is that because your process is done during post-production, you actually finish the 3D version at the same time as the 2D version is. Yeah,
I mean, the unique kind of approach or the unique style or technology that Gener8 has created actually allows us to work in parallel with post-production. So an example in Ghost Rider, which we did, as the visual effects for the flaming head or the chains or all the motion of him, you know, Nicolas Cage when he was the Ghost Rider, we were doing it as they were actually creating the visual effects, because our process and the visual effects process are very complementary, and they're able to pass camera and virtual information very easily back and forth.
Now, you also have launched another product called Cumulate, which is a completely different ballgame. Can you tell us a little?
Yeah, you know, it's different, and a lot of people actually say, well, is this now the yogurt shop? You know, you do 3D and now you're doing a yogurt shop. Really, underneath our technology, we created, because we're kind of fanatics on live telemetry of information. So when we're doing any project, you always want to know, how is that project doing? And there's a lot of complexity to the filming industry because each frame of that film is a digital file, and it's going everywhere. It's sound editing, colorization, 5 different visual effects companies could be working on that. So there are really a lot of moving parts. And so what we did underneath that is create our own data asset, storage and telemetry system. Well, when the film industry, we're very transparent when we're doing projects, and when they saw some of our reporting that we did internally, the films that we were working on said, hey, can we have that for managing actually our film, nothing to do with 3D. So we kind of undid cumulate from underneath our own system, polished it up a little bit, and now have created ultimately a cloud-based data management and telemetry system, which I like. I like the concept of live, accurate data that I can push now to a smartphone. I always used to get big spreadsheets pushed to me in the video game days on a BlackBerry or a smartphone, and you can't read it on that. So I always wanted it in a form that was good for me, the decision maker. And so what Cumulate's doing is putting it in a form for the decision makers, so they have really early warnings when decisions need to be made rather than kind of last minute, which is actually where huge costs go in.
So now tell us, what has brought you to Switzerland?
Switzerland, well, the chocolate, of course, but Switzerland, what we're doing is we were here earlier in the summer introducing our company to the Swiss, banking market, and we're back, we're raising money, and we're going public on a CNSX exchange in Canada, and my learning was that there's quite a strong connection between Canadian markets and Swiss markets, so it was a natural flow to come over and introduce our company to the Swiss, money market, and which has actually been wonderful. It's I'm having fun.
It's a great success.
Yes.
Well, Rory, thank you very much for being with us today.
Well, thank you.
Thank you to Nicolette and to Rory for that very interesting interview. Nicolette will be back with us at the same time next week, but until then, click back to the Dukascopy website.